Yo, what's going on with y'all? I don't do this often, but I'm gonna start. So let's try this shit out. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. At one point, I just gotta line these up. All right, snap. All right, I'm good. So let's get into this video breakdown of my little Uzi Vert animation. Damn, this feels pretty cool to do. I wanna do this more. I don't do this shit often. All right. Man, I kind of just want to kick it from back here. You know what I'm saying? So my whole mindset with these animations, right? Like, it's the final product. I care about the final product. I mean, I care about the process. You know, you're supposed to love and enjoy the process. But really, you only care about, or should I say, whoever's watching, they only care about the final product. The end result, what's going to be seen at the end, what's going to make somebody go, because that reaction is priceless. So when I say what I care about the final result, right, in these types of pieces, I usually spend days, it could be weeks, working on something like this, and you can get very caught up in all the technical, tedious aspects. You know, you want to make sure every frame in the animation is technically correct in sound. The lighting is 100%, 200% perfect. All the polygons are polygons. Like, you want to make sure everything's right. And the truth is, in this day and age, you know, the way things are moving, how fast attention spans are, and etc., we don't have the luxury of that time anymore. So it's not that I don't want to put the time and make sure everything is technically correct. That's just not my focus right now. If you're like a game developer, somebody that does 3D for like a game, then that's different. The technical route would suit that skill set better. Me, I'm looking at this more from the lens of like filmmaking almost. I want my audience to enjoy this. The behind the scenes would probably be appreciated more by like people like us that care about all the technical and ins and outs, and the rigging and the lighting, and this is where the camera shot changes. And my fans would probably just enjoy the actual animation. They're watching for entertainment, and we would be watching for the actual specifics and nuances. And that's kind of how I wanted to frame all of this. And that's kind of how I frame all my animations. So, all right, this breakdown. Where do we start? Here we have the final animations for shots 2 and 3, and a couple of other versions, the earlier ones that didn't make it, as well as some previs of it. And that's kind of my process. I always like to start blocking out the shots with as much storyboard or previs as I can before I go ahead and get an early render. Each take, I'm refining in my head how this animation should play. Okay, so you get to a point where you've blocked it out, you've rendered your animation a few times. Now this next step is optional, and I know a lot of animators, designers, artists, they'll stop at this step because in reality, technically this is a final. They don't have to do anything else. But the next step would be editing and compositing. In my experience, I've just been taught and learned that in post is usually where everything would really come to life. So you can have an animation, but in post is where you may add a certain shine or a dust or a certain effect to really enhance what you're trying to bring to life. I decide not to spend the bulk of my time in post. I know some creators that do. In my head, it's just like, sure, I can spend all that time in post, but if I don't have something good in the first place to try and get to amazing, then it's like you don't have anything. So here I have a couple of back and forths between the previs and the final shots, just to show how important it is to really have a solid previs to go off. In my case, and it's not in all the cases, I try to match my previs as much as I can, and if I need to like go off from it, then I can, of course. That way I know, okay, when I'm lining it up in the edit, I'm not going off track. I try to think of these pieces as in layers, like layers in Photoshop. You really do have to kind of put them and piece them all together cohesively for it to make sense. So going layer by layer, we have the house, we have the clouds, we have the gate. Here we have the shot with no clouds, fog, any volumetric shadows, anything like that. Here we have the shot with all of that turned on. Here we have the same shot with all of that turned on, and depth of field. And here we have the same frame rendered in both Eevee and Cycles. Can you guess which is which? Let me give you a hint. They're both Eevees. Now I'm fucking with you. This one is Cycles and this one is Eevee. I'm aware of the different renderers and their strengths. I would say that Cycles is Definitely a little bit superior to Eevee in a few areas. But again, depending on what you're doing, what kind of aesthetic style you're going for, maybe Eevee suits you. And here's a fun fact. For this entire animation, this is the only shot that's rendered in Cycles. So everything else is in Eevee. And again, I know what they say. Of course, Cycles is better. Oh, Cycles this, Cycles your mother. Of course. But I don't have the strongest computer in the world. And again, I'm doing this as a passion project. These next two shots are actually really cool. They both share something in common, and that is that I use Photoshop for both of them. What did I use Photoshop for? Well, the tattoos as well as the jacket that he's wearing. Oh, and the flag in this background as well. All these three shots have came across Photoshop. And in each case of those two shots, that flag is the same image. I just warped or used the flag in a different medium, meaning in this shot, the flag is literally a waving flag behind the car. In this shot, the image of the flag, the same image of the flag is used as the jacket. I also use Photoshop as a bit of a mood board just to reference any photos that I like or if I want a cool angle to use or a certain type of lighting or color or a specific asset in a shot. Like for example, the Spirit of Ecstasy in the Rolls Royce. I really like how that looks in the Instagram photo. So I'm like, oh, shit, let me make my own. But all of that brings me to another topic I want to touch on. And it's kind of like a different set of, how do I explain that? Variables to worry about. So yeah, we're animating and we're worried about the piece. Is this technically correct? Is the animation correct? Really what I'm trying to note at here is outside of the immediate technical skill sets, yes, you need to know how to rig. Yes, you need to know how to light. Yes, you need to know how to pose and animate, right? But outside of that, is this cohesive? Does shot A transition into shot B as well? Is there continuity throughout this? Does it flow? Are the colors matching? Is this cohesive? So I like to think of those variables as like a tier above the actual hands-on technical, the mouse clicking and the pushing the buttons and all of that stuff. Yeah, you gotta get real good at that, and your eye will develop for that. But again, all those tiny variables that you pick up over time, learning when a shot goes well with another, when one fits with the next, when something doesn't, when the colors aren't matching. You can make the best pieces in the world in terms of animation, but if they can't fit in under the same scheme, if the illusion isn't sold to the person, then I have shit and I have failed and wasted my time, and I'm not doing that. For this shot, I believe there were 2 versions, and I ended up going with the second one, which is the one where his hand isn't moving. I ended up adjusting some of the lights on it, and for some reason there was just something too mechanical and unrealistic about that hand movement there. Side note, yes, I did hand animate everything, so that's probably why it feels so mechanic-y. You could probably go to Mixamo, get a good reference, a good base to start off, or you could just get really good at animating yourself. The character was from the Human Gen add-on. I just adjusted the body proportions a little bit and sculpted the face. Lighting and positioning, camera angles, all that fun stuff, that really makes and breaks the character for you. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sitting here and sculpting for 5 days a character's face. I'm just not doing that. A lot of the background assets were from Blender Kit, all from the free side of Blender Kit, so it's not even like you gotta pay for it either. The car was from Car Teleporter. For this rocky terrain, it's actually pretty easy to sculpt on your own. You could just take a plane, subdivide it a whole bunch of times to get up extra geometry, and then go to the sculpt tool and just start pulling and extruding and pushing inward and creating your own fun shape. You can also use the Ant Landscape add-on. I highly recommend that too. Me personally, I like using a blend of both. So using the landscape add-on and then kind of mixing my own rocks here and there, taking a sphere or taking a cube, subdividing it, and then mixing it into the terrain to get a custom, more unique effect and look. Am I perfect? No, I'm not. So are there things I would change if I could go back? You damn right I would. Like the face. Damn. That face, man. That shit messed me up. Oh God, I hate this face so much. It was only barely usable. And I mean barely, just barely enough to pull off the illusion I wanted to pull off. But beggars can't be choosers, and a good designer works with what he has. So I spent a lot of time on the top portion of the face. Wish I'd have went back and spent just as much time on the bottom of the face so I could use more of it or a different shot for the animation. This hand right here, specifically the cuff on his wrist, specifically his hand and his wrist. I just wish I would have went about that a little bit differently. Back in Marvelous Designer, I would have exported that as thick. But besides that, maybe I would have worked on 1 or 2 more scenes as a complete contrast to everything already here. There's a lot of like hot pink and purple. And yeah, I know that's the theme and aesthetic, but opposites attract, and to see something on the end of that spectrum, I don't know, in my head, I just feel like it would have been nice. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys right now. This wasn't meant to be like a tutorial or anything, just kind of like a little bit of my thoughts and some process and breakdown. Anything in depth will be on Patreon. All right then. That's about all I got for y'all today in this breakdown. You can catch me on Discord. Let's talk some design. If you need help, any questions, all that good stuff, just catch me there. All the gatekeeper stuff, all the in-depth, maybe tutorial-wise, all the super, advanced tips, stuff that I gotta really break down. I'll drop that stuff on the Patreon or something. I will catch you guys soon. Bye.